It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Happy day, America, as it's voting day, election day. Always feels good to vote. It's the one time where I actually feel like I'm more powerful than the people in Congress. That one time, that fleeting moment when you get to push that button or pull that lever where you can say, ha, go away, or hello, come on back, or howdy, welcome, whatever is your choice. Hope you enjoyed it. It is a great feeling, no doubt about it. Phil Kornbluth, great American. Professor Tom Hayes, great American. And Will Pelagic, who's at Wofford tonight. And he's a great American, too, even though he's got a little bit of that Yankee blood in him. He is a great American. He was up at Clemson today. I was at USC, and Will has made the ride over to Wofford. It's basketball season, which for the life of me, I cannot figure out why on November 6th we have college basketball being forced down our throats. I know it's because of ESPN, and they wanted to showcase one of the great cheating programs of America in the Kansas Jayhawks tonight. Well, they are. It's been proven in court that they are cheaters, yet they'll be on national television for all to see and rave about and attract future great recruits to their program. It's a Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from Will Muschamp. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney. Also, we'll hear from Mike Young, Wofford basketball coach, as the Terriers prepare to take on the Tar Heels. USC opens up against Upstate and Dave Dickerson, and Clemson opens up at home against the Citadel. We'll go over the other games around the state as well. If you want to join in, try to work in your calls as we can, 800-956-7266. The news out of USC today, injury-wise, it's a long list. You can add Bryson Allen Williams to that list today, but he is day-to-day. He's not out for the game. He and Rico Dowdle and Aaron Sterling did not practice today. They are listed as day-to-day. The other players you know about who've already been declared out, Jamias Williams, Javon Charleston, Nick Harvey, JT eBay all remain out for this week's game and beyond. Of course, Williams and Charleston out for the rest of the season. They're having surgery this week. So the big talk around USC today was the safety position. Who's going to play safety with 3 down? Who's being moved around? Even Shi Smith, according to Will Muschamp, is being prepared to go to the secondary and play some cornerback if necessary. Jonathan Gibson's a guy they're preparing to go in and play some at the safety spot. So they are hanging on by their fingernails at the safety position. Otherwise, you know, they're excited about what they can do at Florida this week. You realize if the Gamecocks win, they will finish 3rd in the East and match their SEC record of last year of 5-3. And it would only be the 4th time in school history they've had back-to-back SEC winning seasons. So that's something that Muschamp can hang his hat on as a major accomplishment. Meantime, Will, up Clemson way, I'm sure that Dabo Swinney had a lot of words of concern about this Boston College team.
They did, Corn, and good evening to you and good evening to all in the state of South Carolina. Yeah, Dabo, you know, it's funny. We talked about this over the last couple of weeks, how effusive the praise was for the teams that were overmatched against Clemson. He didn't spend a lot of time on Boston College, and that tells me I think he's genuinely concerned about this ball club. Of course, they have the ACC preseason player of the year in A.J. Dillon. They've got great players on the defensive side of the football that held Clemson to 7 points through the first 3 quarters of last year's game in Death Valley. And really, it's an opportunity for Clemson to really kind of refocus themselves. They were able to kind of walk over these last couple of opponents, but they have a real big test. They're going to have a high atmosphere when it comes to being in Chestnut Hill on a college day evening, a night game there. They're expecting a sellout. And I think, too, every time Clemson plays from here on out, they're going to get a team's best shot, whether it's Duke next week, South Carolina in 2 weeks, and whoever they get in the ACC championship. And this really starts the beginning of the stretch run for Clemson. A lot of those games will take place in, as they say, the championship orange breeches, and they will continue to at least try to weave their way through the stretch run of the season, which they've kind of had the cupcakes here lately, but there's no cupcakes on the schedule.
All right, and as far as the injury status with the Tigers, anything to note from there? I'm trying to remember if anybody came out of the last game limping or bruised up. I really can't recall anybody being in that kind of condition.
The only 2 players that were mentioned today, Corn, were Mark Fields, the defensive back from Clemson. He practiced for the first time on Monday. He's still kind of dealing with some lingering injuries. He was full go today at practice as they went at it this evening there at Clemson. Sean Pollard had a hand injury going into the week, but had that healed. The only thing that he had was a back spasm. He could have gone Saturday if absolutely needed, but because of the fact that Clemson scored on basically 2 of their first 7 plays, they felt that it was more prudent to hold him and at least give him some more rest with that aching back. But he believes he's going to be okay. And basically Clemson is about as full go as you could have as far as their team goes. They are the polar opposite of health when it comes to what USC is dealing with their atrophy in the secondary.
All right, let's turn our attention to where you are, Wofford and North Carolina. Now, a year ago, the Terriers opened up against South Carolina, their brand new building, and they were excited about that. Last year, they went to Chapel Hill and stunned the Tar Heels. The victory heard all around the country. Boy, for 24 hours, Mike Young was as hot as you could get as a college basketball coach. Now they get the Tar Heels on the flip side. And, of course, it's a Tar Heel team loaded with NBA prospects, first-rounders, 5 stars, and all this sort of stuff. The Terriers, however, they've been in these kind of games before. Mike Young always plays a tough non-league schedule. They won't take a back step to anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting, Corn. When I was speaking with Mike Young earlier in a conversation you'll hear later on Sports Talk, this is a kind of a confluence of different atmospheres. They played a highly anticipated game against a Power 5 opponent to open up last year and to open up this fantastic building, which still has the paint that still is shining brandy new on it. And they also played North Carolina in their building. And this is kind of the those 2 atmospheres clashing. It is a sellout crowd tonight. Fans are already filing in. And the one thing that he says is he believes that the players who are back, they have 4 starters returning, should have learned from both of those atmospheres. He didn't like the way that they played last year against South Carolina in the opener, but he feels that his team learned enough lessons from that to be able to have the kind of poise to go into a hostile environment in Chapel Hill and win. Of course, Roy Williams brings in a very renewed squad with brand new players and shiny new toys, so to speak. So there'll certainly be some unexpected things that they'll have to go through. But for somebody who is about to have the Carolina Blue in his building, Mike Young's mood seems about as relaxed as could be, which I see as something that the Terriers can basically build on and build from. And, of course, they'll have the home crowd behind them.
Obviously, he wants his team to play tempo basketball, but knowing Roy, he's going to try to accelerate the tempo, maybe a lot of pressing. It'll be interesting to see how great Wofford's passing is, right here at the beginning of the season, because North Carolina will test you. And one of a few teams in college basketball that can fast break off a made basket.
And another thing, too, Pro, is that when you win a game like this, you can't beat yourself. You have to be able to limit your own mistakes, capitalize on the opposition's mistakes. That's going to be key for Wofford to win today. And the other part of this, too, is foul trouble. You're going to obviously, while you have the home building in your favor, you're probably not going to get the benefit of a lot of calls just because of the fact that North Carolina comes in as the more storied program and you have Roy Williams on the other bench. So you might have to play a little bit 5 against 8, but as you know, if you can get enough bounces to go your way, enough shots to go in, we've seen Wofford win this game here before.
All right, we'll get more from Will coming up from Wofford. A piece of recruiting news not good for South Carolina today as cornerback DJ Daniel out of Georgia Military announces a decommitment from the Gamecocks. Surprising and then again not surprising. Surprising because typically when South Carolina has gotten a commitment from Georgia Military, it has held. They've had a long-standing relationship with that school, and usually their coach, Bert Williams, makes sure that players stick to their commitment, whether it's South Carolina or somewhere else. That's a surprising part. The not surprising part is that he has been unavailable for several months to talk about his commitment to South Carolina. And he's from the state of Georgia. And surprisingly, he picked South Carolina over Georgia back in August. And so it leads you to believe that he's having second thoughts, and Georgia may indeed be strongly on his mind and may likely be where he is headed. So he's a quality cornerback that South Carolina is going to miss out of this class. That's why they're recruiting so many at that position. Back in a moment.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth and Professor Tom Hayes here in downtown Columbia. Will Pelagic at Wofford. And, yeah, DJ Daniel. I didn't know this when I was talking about it a moment ago, but he did go ahead and commit to Georgia late this afternoon after decommitting from USC. So you can see that coming after he announced his decommitment. So big pickup for Georgia. But this could help South Carolina with a couple of the cornerback prospects that they are working, including Jalen Perry. See, this would be interesting. Jalen Perry was once a Georgia commitment and decommitted from Georgia. And now South Carolina is in real good shape with him. They might get him. So it'd be kind of an exchange. And they'll get 4 years out of Jalen Perry if they get him, while DJ Daniel has just 2 years to play. Shiloh Sanders would be another that South Carolina is strongly in on, the son of Deion Sanders. And there are others. The Gamecocks are recruiting for corner, a position of great need for them at this point. 800-956-7266, a Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from Sweeney. We'll hear from Muschamp. We'll hear from Mike Young. We'll hear from Kerry Tharp. And we'll hear from you. Right now, John in Myrtle Beach joins us here on Sports Talk. Good evening, John.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for taking my call this evening.
Absolutely.
Oh, how I wish I was making that trek to Sparkle City. I've been talking about this game since last year when I knew we had a home and home with the Tar Heels, and I'm hoping that we hear the shots around the world for a second time tonight.
Well, I mean, Wofford becomes South Carolina's team, the state of South Carolina's team tonight, since they're taking on the dreaded, hated Tar Heels in our beautiful state. To prove the point once again, not only is Wofford greater academically than North Carolina, but when you get a Wofford degree, you know what, Pro?
It actually means something.
It's a real degree.
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
knew
You don't have to
Yeah.
just, sign a sign-in sheet and get your diploma. You do have to go to classes at Wofford.
True. Absolutely. And, something interesting, we didn't have the normal preseason that most college teams have, because we actually this year went on one of those international tours, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say we went to Portugal and played some of their professional teams during the late summer, early fall, if you will. So we've had a little bit more practice than some of the other teams have in the country, and I'm hoping that experience that they learned or they gained playing in Portugal pays off tonight.
Oh, I would think so. And listen, you got Fletcher McGee on your side. If they can get him some good looks, and if he just happens to have one of those nights, he could shoot Wofford right into this thing.
You're absolutely right. I don't even know if he needs good looks as important as some of those shots that he takes. He may not need good looks. He may just need the ball in his hand.
Yeah.
Well, they will need somebody else to step up from outside of McGee. He can't do it on his own. The one thing that Wofford's not built like a mid-major team. Wofford's built like a team that can play in a power conference because they've got bodies inside. They'll like to play inside out. Like a team, for example, like the Citadel that goes into Clemson tonight. That looks more, again, like a mid-major team, a team that has to beat you with beyond the arc. Wofford has a lot more balance than most teams have at this level, and that's part of the reason why they got a chance to win last year, because they were able to stand toe-to-toe and match up with a team like
For call, John, 100-956-7266 is our number. We go next to John in Charleston. All right. Brother of John in Charleston. John, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. Wanted to ask, I've been trying to find the updated low country 5A football bracket, playoff bracket.
Yeah.
But was unable, and I was wondering if you maybe have took a peek at that thing.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what it is, but I'll tell you where you can go. You just go to the South Carolina High School League website. You have a computer and everything?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the URL. You know what the URL is?
No.
Well, that's the address. See, I'm talking fancy computer term here. That's the address on the internet for the website, and it's very simply Their website is schsl.org. schsl.org. You click on sports, and then you click on football, and you go to brackets, and you'll find every bracket for all the playoffs. As far as the 5A teams are concerned, you're asking about the lower state.
Low country.
Any particular team you're interested in?
No, just
well,
taking a peek.
Down your way, Somerville will play Stratford. That's a 1 versus a 4. Berkeley's a 1, and Berkeley will play host to Irmo. The higher seed is hosting. So Somerville's home to Stratford. Berkeley's home to Irmo. Dorchester is home to Wando. Cane Bay is home to West Ashley. So in 5A, those are the games down your way involving your teams.
And I guess the important thing to remember is if both teams run through, Dutch Fork has to go to Berkeley, don't they? So that would be interesting indeed.
Let's see here. Are you sure about that?
That's what we heard from Best in Business last night.
I wasn't paying attention. Let's see. Dutch Fork is let's see. Well, yeah, the brackets are predetermined after the first round. So let's see. If Berkeley wins, booyah, there'll be a home team in round 2. Dutch Fork would be the home team in round 2 for its game as the higher seed. If it wins, then the next round, Dutch Fork would have to go on the road in the 3rd round if they get that far, because the designated home team would come out of the group of West Florence and Fort Dorchester.
That's what we were saying.
Yeah.
They'd have to go to Berkeley.
So if they got to the semifinals, if they got to the state semifinals and it's Berkeley and Dutch Fork, it would end up being Berkeley. If I understand the brackets right. All right, thank you for your phone call. 800-956-7266 is our number. Coming up, we're going to hear from Dabo Sweeney and Will Muschamp and Mike Young. We've got time for more calls here before the top of the hour break, so feel free to give us a shout. Will, what's it looking like crowd-wise there? Because I saw pictures of students camping out. It looked like Krzyzewskiville. I guess it was Youngville outside of the arena. They had students out there for days camping out for tickets. I mean, I know it's a sellout, but is it looking like an overflow kind of crowd?
Well, I tell you this, at least from the student section, they were here and they were all in their seats an hour before tip-off. So they've been here. They've been basically having the North Carolina team warming up in front of them. There's a lot of the gamesmanship going on here between the Wofford students and the Tar Heel players. So nice little back and forth. There is a lot more blue of the lighter variety than I would like to see in a building here in the state of South Carolina. So there are certainly plenty of Tar Heels who are able to get their way in via the secondary market, but it's filling up pretty nice. This is going to be a full building one way or another, guys. This is not a sellout in name only. This will be a game that attracts all. I know that when it comes to this campus, you wonder how the campus infrastructure can really take a crowd of this nature, just because of the fact that there is not necessarily a lot of available parking. So people might have to be creative when they get on campus here at Wofford, but they at least have pom-poms set up at all the seats, white pom-poms, so they're at least trying to differentiate from the blue here from that perspective. But as the Wofford basketball team comes on the floor, you're starting to hear the cheers for them, and like I said, I really hope that they're able to kind of create the atmosphere that is hostile enough for this North Carolina team when they play here as visitors.
This is what we call fire marshal's night off.
Yeah, really. Hide the fire marshals. Don't look around the corner. Tell you what, that's big for Wofford. First of all, it's a beautiful building. And I suggest to everybody, when you get a chance to go to Spartanburg, right over to the Wofford campus and check out this new building. Jerry Richardson's name is on the outside of it. His name's on the outside of a lot of things there at Wofford. Beautiful building. And then, of course, they're attracting South Carolina last year, North Carolina this year. ESPN is there. ESPN2, I believe, is televising this game. That's just huge for Wofford. National attention. And if they can spring the upset and never say never, as we know, if you can win in Chapel Hill, you can certainly win in Spartanburg, can you not?
Yes, you can.
Cross your fingers. All right, we'll be back. Much more to come.
Sheridan Indoor Stadium, Wofford and UNC to tip off here the basketball season of 2018 and 19. To give you an idea of how big of a game this is for folks here, among those in attendance, some scouts from the Miami Heat, as well as the Los Angeles Lakers. And who is representing the Lakers? Well, none other than the former North Carolina Tar Heel himself, Anton Jameson, who does a little bit of work on their TV side and also does some advanced college scouting for them. So he is here tonight at Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium representing the Lakers and, of course, here to see his former team. Some injury news across the basketball world in the state of South Carolina. Both T.J. Moss and Alonzo Frink won't dress tonight for South Carolina. Jermaine Couisnard will not dress either, still ineligible from the academic issue that's stemming from the standardized test score that we reported to you about a month ago. As far as Clemson is concerned, Elijah Thomas, their starting forward/center, is still a game-time decision tonight before Clemson's opening game against the Citadel. Speaking of the Tigers, it is a Talking Tuesday. Clemson taking on Boston College. A win for the Tigers will get them a division title. The Atlantic Division could be won for the fourth consecutive time for the Tigers. They'd be the first team to be able to do that since the ACC championship game came into existence in 2005. Both Clemson and Florida State are the only teams to win 3 consecutive. And head coach Dabo Swinney knows that after these last 4 weeks of playing teams where he's given some effusive, yet I don't know if it was deserved praise, he is giving Boston College all the attention it deserves and needs.
This team is built like us as far as they know who they are, just like we know who we are. And there's a lot of veteran leadership and a lot of veteran experience on both sides of the ball. So we're kind of mirror images of each other in that way. I think very prideful groups, us and them. But their style is a little different, and as far as how they go about doing things. You're going to see a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, so 2 and 3 tight ends in the ball game. And the quarterback is an outstanding player, very good football player. Dylan is a 245-pound back, and then 23 behind him is a heck of a player. I mean, these guys have all made big plays. 89, ironically, Sweeney is his name. He's the best we've seen. He is a really, really talented player. Leads them in receptions. Got a couple good wideouts on the outside, 9 and 6. 6 got behind us last year, beat Trayvon deep down the sideline. So just a very well-coordinated offense. Stress you big time with all their action game, the boots, the swap boots, the pop passes, the nakeds. They do an excellent job from top to bottom on this offensive side. And then defensively, it's the same old Boston College. You look at our game last year, it was 7-7 in the fourth quarter. And we popped a couple big plays on them, and we're able to kind of get control of the game. But every yard is a tough, dirty yard against BC. I mean, they make you earn everything. Very well positioned. Same thing. Very well coordinated on the defensive side. Really big and stout inside at D tackle. The 2 ends. 11 is right there at the top of the country in sacks. Number 2 is an All-American. They've done a nice job recruiting, especially on the back 7. I think that's where they've improved the most since I've been kind of competing against BC. They've always been really stout and good in the front 7. But the back group, their safeties and their corners, athletic guys that can cover, guys that can run, and they ask them to cover. They'll mix up their coverages and play some zone, play a lot of man. But the same thing, I think they're very well coordinated as far as how they game plan week in and week out to attack what you do best. So big challenge, sound in the kicking game. Again, one of the better returners we've seen. I think he's averaging 11 or 12 yards a return. So this is what championship football is all about. You turn on the tape and you go, well, that's why they are where they are. They're a really good team. You turn on our tape and look at us and you go, oh, well, that's why we're where we are. So this is what it's all about. And we get an opportunity to get after it Saturday night and see if we can find a way to win it.
All right, Dabo Sweeney from up Clemson Way this afternoon. Will Muschamp met with the media for his weekly press conference. This one on the Florida Gators, a chance for the Gamecocks to finish third in the East if they can get the win down in Gainesville.
Great opportunity for our football team on the road. Got a lot of respect for Dan and his staff, and the job Dan did at Mississippi State, and then being back at Florida and the job he and his staff are doing this year. And I know a lot of his staff members, and they do a really good job. A little uncertainty at the quarterback position, but Felipe Franks can make all the throws. He's got tremendous arm talent, and has shown flashes this year of being a very effective quarterback. Kyle Trask has done a really nice job in the opportunities that he's had to go in there and perform offensively. Emory Jones is a young man from Heard County in Georgia that's really talented. Played against Georgia a little bit, and certainly Tony's a guy that played quarterback at Blount High School in Mobile and is playing receiver for him, and they've used in some sort of wildcat situation. So we'll be prepared for all situations, and as far as our guys are concerned with whatever they decide to do as far as the quarterback position. They're very big and explosive outside, and Swain and Jefferson and Grimes and Cleveland and Hammond are all guys that can run vertically. They're big guys that can go judge the ball down the field, finish on plays down the field. But the position that really strikes is the running back position. Scarlett and P. Ryan and Pierce are all very similar backs, compact, big lower body, run through contact. Been very impressed with them, and their offensive line and the movement they get in the run game. So, Dan does a really good job offensively of keeping you off balance and giving you some different looks week to week. So we'll have to make some adjustments in the game. Defensively, the guys that jump out at you, Zaninga and Polite and CC Jefferson, are all fast twitch guys on the edge. Been very effective. They forced 18 turnovers. They're +6 as a football team this year, third in the SEC behind LSU and Alabama. So that tells you a lot of their wins are, you go back and look at it, it's a turnover margin. Taking care of the football offensively and getting it off people defensively. Todd Grantham, their coordinator, does a really good job, again, week to week, giving you some different things that you're going to have to be able to block. You probably haven't seen on tape, and but his guys are they're forcing turnovers and they're ball hawking the ball. Joseph's a very active linebacker, and they've got a really talented secondary. Two really good specialists as far as McPherson and Townsend, and really good team speed. And Swain and Tony are really good as returners. So we've got our work cut out for us there at noon in Gainesville. Injury report. Hit on Javon Charleston, Jam Williams are both having surgery this week. Nick Harvey and JT eBay will be out. And everybody practiced except for Bryson Allen, Rico, and Aaron, and I'll know more of them as the week goes. They're day-to-day at this time. They didn't practice today, but hope to get them back out there tomorrow and Thursday, and we'll see how it goes. At this time of the year, everybody's banged up. Everybody's got injuries. That's part of the deal. Man down, man up. And we'll open it up for any questions.
Well, looking at the secondary, is it the time where you maybe go to a guy like a Darius Rush or a Jonah Gibson and say, hey, be ready, and you're the emergency option, maybe even a Decarrion Joyner to say just throw him in there to get some bodies out there?
Jonathan will be prepared to go, and that's a possibility there. Obviously, Rashad Fenton gives us a lot of flexibility. Can play nickel, can go back and play safety if he needs to. He repped with me today, an individual, and we're going to have him mentally prepared to go in the game. Shi Smith is a guy that could go in at corner for us, given we need some snaps there. So we'll have a plan ready.
What are Bryson and Aaron's injuries?
Bryson's got an ankle and Aaron's got a knee.
If neither one of those guys comes back, what sort of solutions do you have on the end?
Well, we've got Shamik played really well. Big third down stop in the game Saturday. Obviously, Dennis Woolham can play at the end. Danny Fennell, Brad Johnson, Kier Thomas can play in. J.J. Mbari can play in.
How much is Shi repped at defensive back, and what did you see out of him that made you look at that?
Well, I watched him in high school. He's a really good defensive back at Union, and got good coverage skills and really good ball skills down the field, ball judgment down the field. It's tough. He can tackle. He's on special teams for us. So we just met with him to mentally prepare him. It's not as much about repping. It's more about getting him to our sideline, and if we get into a jam, being able to communicate with him on the things he needs to do.
All right, Will Muschamp, boy, what a laundry list of injuries and what a bunch of shuffling they're having to do with personnel to compensate for those injured safeties. 3 safeties down going into this game at Florida. Can they manufacture a win on the road? It'd be huge if they can do it. We're back with more on Sports Talk in a moment.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, and this is a treat for us. We get to sit down with a head coach in advance of a game that is a big one for his team. The Wofford Terriers hosting North Carolina. And, Coach, you conquered this mountain last year. How much of that can you bottle up and bring into this game tonight?
Well, I hope we learned a lot from last year. Frank's team outplayed us well. I mean, they were tougher. They were faster to the ball. We were slow and heavy-legged and didn't play very well. You know, I implored them earlier today, just lay yours back and let's go do it. Let's go get after it and see what happens. You know, I feel better about it. We're a lot older. We've got all these guys back, but you know, you're playing the Tar Heels. They've got you know, pretty good personnel over there last time I checked. So we've got our hands full. I'm looking forward to seeing us compete. I hope we play well.
As far as just what you saw from the game when you played North Carolina last year, are there similarities or things you can take from that? And also because of that, having seen the Carolina Blue on the other side, is the atmosphere not as intimidating for them this time around, having been through that before beating them?
I hope that we're, you know, old enough and wise enough and tough enough to, you know, irregardless of the competition, that we're going to play the same way. We're going to take care of the ball. We're going to guard you. We're going to, you know, be great transition defense and not let North Carolina get out and go. But you know, that in reality is a different animal. You're talking about big, strong men with Brooks and Manley on the front line. Luke May, preseason ACC Player of the Year. Cameron Johnson, terrific player. Kenny Williams, terrific player. You know, in his fourth year. So, you know, we've got a mountain to climb, but we look forward to it.
Of course, Fletcher, one of your big stars coming back from a year ago. What has he improved on? I know that he tested out the waters at the NBA draft. What did they tell him he needed to improve on, and what have you seen over the summer?
Got to get better defensively, and he's done that. It's a bigger priority for him, thank goodness. You know, just a consistent evolution of a kid's game. You know, nothing that's going to jump out at you offensively. He's bigger and stronger. I know that. I would say he's probably 10 pounds heavier, good weight, better able to withstand the beating that he, you know, endures night in, night out, with such a focus on him and not letting him score 40, which he's capable of doing. He's better in a number of areas. I hope that's evident tonight.
What excites you that's new about your team?
You know, I just feel like we're deeper. I think it's as deep a team as we've had since our 9-10 team. That was a while ago. We'll play 10 guys tonight. I like our depth. I like the quality of our depth. I feel better about our point guard spot. Storm Murphy had a terrific freshman year. Ryan Lawson's come in and solidified himself as you know, more than capable backup. And Chavez Goodwin is you know, eligible tonight for the first time, transferred to us from Charleston. Has done well in the preseason, gives us some length. You know, so I mean, there's a lot of things. A year older, we think we're ready to go with it.
Last one for you. Key to victory tonight.
I'm going to give you two. We can't have more than 10 turnovers. That's always been a staple around here, no matter who we're playing. And we cannot allow North Carolina to score 3-point baskets and layups in transition. We've got to do a great job with our transition defense. If we do that, we'll be right there.
It'll be a fun night for your fans. Good luck tonight.
Thank you very much.
That is Mike Young, the head coach of the Wofford Terriers. We are less than 5 minutes away from tip time here at Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium, and both teams are on the floor. The place is packed. There's a fever pitch, and we'll see if this Terrier squad can look like they belong on the same floor as UNC for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I tell you what, would be great for Wofford to get off with a big win. Of course, in college basketball, I'm not going to say these games don't mean anything, because come March, you lose games in November, and you're a tournament team that's on the bubble.
Right.
they can make a difference. They certainly can. Of course, you always have your conference schedule to bail you out and things of that nature. And, for the big boys, losses in November, December don't really hurt them because they're going to be around come February and March, and they'll be fine. For a team like Wofford, it'd be nice to beat North Carolina, but it's not going to help them get to the NCAA tournament a bit because they're in a one-bid league. Southern Conference.
Yeah.
They don't get 2 bids.
They
still got to win the Southern Conference Championship. I mean, it'd be a great feather in their cap and all that kind of stuff, but it's not going to help them related to the NCAA tournament.
Well, the only thing it would help in the NCAA tournament is they would probably get as high as a 12 seed and being stuck at number 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm. To recruiting we go now on this Wednesday night or Tuesday night. What night is this?
Tuesday night.
Tuesday.
Election day.
Holy smokes. Am I trying to push the week ahead or not?
Yes.
Running back Jerrion Ely of Jackson, Mississippi. No, I don't stutter. I just like saying Mississippi that way. Put in a few extra S's. Anyway, he was at Clemson on Saturday. He watched the Tigers rush for nearly 500 yards. That had to open his eyes even more. He said he loves the coaching staff, feels like they're genuine guys. He's also a big-time baseball prospect. He talked to Monty Lee. Of course, they would take him on the baseball team. Thing is, he's a first-round draft projection in the summer. So even if you get him in February, there's no guarantee you're going to get him in August. But Clemson is still recruiting him hard, and they're in pretty good shape with him after this visit. He liked what he saw from the offense. He liked the fact that they run players out there regardless of their age. And his belief is you play the best player regardless of experience and regardless of age. He thinks Clemson does that. He likes seeing that. Now, he's been committed to Ole Miss for nearly a year, but he is exploring other options like Clemson. He is also going to take officials to Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and either Southern Cal or Tennessee. He'll include Clemson in his official visit list. He plans to go back to Ole Miss for the Egg Bowl later this month. According to Max Preps, he's rushed for over 4,000 yards and has averaged nearly 10 yards per rush in his career. And he has scored 73 touchdowns. As we mentioned earlier, USC has lost a key member of its class, a decommitment today from cornerback DJ Daniel of Georgia Military, and then he turned around and committed to Georgia. He's a native of Griffin, Georgia. You should have just gone ahead and committed to Georgia to begin with. You picked the Gamecocks over Georgia back in August with much hullabaloo. I wanted to say hullabaloo, trying to get that right. With much hullabaloo. And, you said all the right things back then. You should have just gone ahead and committed to Georgia and save everybody the trouble. Let's see. USC target cornerback Shiloh Sanders was offered by Tennessee. He's taking an official USC. He's looking at a possible visit to Michigan State this weekend. Clemson target, and I guess USC target as well, but I think it's more Clemson. Linebacker Quavaris Crouch of Charlotte went to Michigan last weekend, official, and he talked to the Wolverines rivals site, and he said he was more comfortable with the players there than anyone anywhere else. He said he doesn't have a leader right now. Don't tell the Clemson insiders that. They all think Clemson's getting him. He'll take an official to Clemson November 17th. Clemson quarterback target in the 2020 class, DJ Uiagalelei, went to Auburn unofficially over the weekend. This was planned. This was not a sneak in. He had told us he was going to Auburn this past weekend. We asked him about a visit to Clemson because he missed an earlier visit to Clemson after missing his flight for the NC State weekend. And we asked him today if he's going to make a date with Clemson. He does not think he'll be back to see Clemson this year. He's been to Clemson before back in the summer, but he said he doesn't think he'll be back this year to see Clemson. USC and Clemson target wide receiver Zevian Capers plans to visit Arkansas this coming weekend. That's unofficial. He's in the 2020 class. One of his coaches at his school is from Arkansas, so there is a connection there. All right, that's going to do it for recruiting. Don't forget to check it out on a regular basis, 24/7. And now you have more time at night, now that it's darker earlier, to sit back and read the recruiting information and soak it all in. On our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting. All right, basketball tipping off at the top of the hour. We'll be back with more hoops and football here on Sports Talk.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It's a talking Tuesday. It's a bouncing Tuesday. The ball is bouncing once again. College basketball in all its glory is here. 9-8, Clemson leading the Citadel. They haven't even played 4 minutes yet. They've got 17 points between them. This Clemson basketball team trying to make its football team proud by showing some offense. 9-8, though. It's a shootout going on at this point. The Citadel already has taken 3 3-pointers.
Mm-hmm.
They've made 2. They keep that up, they're going to be in the ball game. Thomas did start for Clemson, made the first basket of the season. Tigers are 1 for 4 from 3, and they're leading it 9-8, right about the first TV timeout there, which is probably where they are at this point in time. South Carolina is trailing USC Upstate 9-2. A little bit of a slow start for the Gamecocks. It's the freshman Lawson with the only basket for the Cocks, who are off to a rip-roaring 1 for 4 start. Now, I'm hoping that Frank Martin's going to do a little more coaching in this one than he did in the exhibition game where he just sat back and watched his team lose, trying to teach them a lesson. It's a 9-0 run for Upstate over the last 225. Mozone, is that how he pronounces it? He's got 5. Moore has 4. Wofford and North Carolina underway up at Wofford.
I see 4-0.
Whose way?
North Carolina.
Tar Heels up 4-0. Okay. We'll get an update from Will on that coming up in just a little bit. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at sportstalksc. Other basketball tonight. Presbyterian at the College of Charleston. Bob Jones at Furman, that traditional rival. Brevard at SC State. Ferrum at Coastal Carolina. Winthrop at Vanderbilt tonight. Those are games around the state. The big national matchups, Duke against Kentucky. That's the second game.
That's the second game.
Kansas against Michigan State.
Going on right now.
And because of that, we're not going to get the college football playoff rankings until 9 o'clock.
Yeah, once Kansas and Michigan State ends, then they'll have the playoff standings, then the second game.
Yeah. All for ESPN's benefit. They don't care about the fact that the fan is trained to tune in at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays this time of the year to get the rankings. No, they're going to hold the rankings, even though they've got the rankings. Mm-hmm. They could release the rankings. They're going to wait, make you watch the first game, even though you don't want to watch, football fans.
Some people watch Kansas and Michigan State.
Well, see the best paid team in college basketball, Kansas Jayhawks.
One of them.
Yeah, one of them. So anyway, you're going to have to wait till 9 on that. I will right now tell you, according to my sources, I have inside sources in Dallas. I'll tell you who my source is. I'll tell you who my source is. Remember Don Williams? He lives in the Dallas area. He could be my source on this. Alabama will be number 1 in the ranking.
It doesn't take a source to figure
when
that
it comes out. That's according to my sources.
It doesn't take a
my
source
sources
to
also tell
out.
me, this is an exclusive, I'm not going to make you wait until 9 o'clock. I'm going to tell you right now. Clemson will be number 2 in the ranking.
Well, I already figured out who's 1 and 2 is. You know,
we're going to make you wait for 3 and 4.
My source is my big toe, and it says
we're gonna make
Alabama.
They ought to tell you now. They don't give you the voting on the panel. They should reveal the voting so we know if Clemson is gaining in this ranking in the minds of the panel. They don't tell you. They just give you the ranking. They don't tell you how many votes each one got. So, speaking of the Tigers, this Boston College team's a little scary. You better not go up there taking it for granted. Number 1, they're pretty scary. And number 2, as much as it pains me to say so, that market right now, sports-wise, is pretty hot. Pretty much everything coming out of Boston is winning championships. You know what I mean? You know, Red Sox, they won the World Series. Patriots won 6 in a row. Celtics, even though they lost last night in Denver, pretty good. How about the Bruins? Not sure what they're doing.
I'm not sure what they're doing.
I think Bobby Orr just
right
scored
now.
again, so they're probably going pretty well. Hey, I saw where the Blackhawks fired their coach today.
Well, here's the key to Clemson. And again, we go back to that secondary. One of the reasons the secondary is playing so well, and only in the Texas A&M game, is they've been able to play with a lead.
Mhm.
Other than that, they just pad the lead, and they know the other team is one-dimensional.
Well, they're blowing everybody out, averaging 60 points per game over the last 4. The one thing that Dabo Swinney, at least people on the outside, are thinking, well, what about complacency with this team? And he talked today at his press conference about preventing that with this team.
I mean, we just do what we always do. We don't prepare any different. We really don't. I mean, it's not. And there's the same Monday practice that we had against Georgia Southern yesterday. We don't do anything any different. We try to create consistency in our preparation. We don't do anything different as coaches. Our schedule's not different. We just go about our business and put our plan together with a daily routine, and just try to make that game the biggest game of the year every week. We really do that. I know a lot of people say, well, that's coach speak. Well, it's coach speak because that's what you got to do to be successful and be consistent. So we work really hard at that. And then we learn from it. If you win or you lose, you don't get too high, you don't get too low. Fans are really high or really low, and we don't do that. I mean, we just stay focused on the task at hand. And our guys have really bought into that, but just the consistency in our preparation. So this is the biggest game of the year because it's the one we're playing. It just so happens after this one, if you win, they're going to hand you a trophy. So that's pretty cool. But last week was this isn't any bigger than last week. If we hadn't won that one, then this one they don't hand you a trophy. So they're all big. They're all big, and that's the mindset that we bring to it every single week. And I'm proud of our team. I mean, I think this team, the focus and the leadership of this team has been pretty special because we've played a couple of teams the last couple of weeks that records, aren't very good, but our guys have shown up and they've played to a standard, and they take pride in their performance. And so that's a really good quality to this team.
Is it easier or harder after playing this stretch of games you have to correct those mistakes and have the attention of your team?
I think it's always easier when you're winning to do anything. I prefer doing everything after a win. I don't ever get excited about a loss, but it is what it is. When you have one, you go back to work, and then you challenge and you find out what you're made of, and you learn and you pick yourself up and you go back to work. That's what winners do. But there's plenty. Our guys take a lot of pride. It's really not about as much about the scoreboard as it is the pride that everybody has in how they play. That's the buy-in. And, collectively, if you can get everybody committed to that, then the scoreboard will most likely take care of itself. So it's just little things. I mean, we come in here and we talk about whether it might be a loaf, we hold them to a high standard. And I come in every Monday and I'm in front of the whole team. If I got anybody loafing, I'm going to call them out on it and make sure they understand, that what the standard is. Same thing that we do as coaches as far as how we grade them with their technique and their fundamentals and their performance and their performance points and so forth. There's a high level of accountability. So there's an edge every week in moving on to the next game, learning from it. But there's always another game, and you got to start over.
Dabo Swinney from his press conference earlier today. Let's update the hoops. Citadel, Clemson, 21 all, 12-minute mark. Citadel shooting 67%. Clemson shooting 53%. USC on an 8-0 run now leads Upstate 10-9. with 13 minutes to go in the half. You got a Wofford score real quick? I don't have a Wofford score real quick. We'll get an update from Will after the break.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Welcome back to Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium here at the campus of Wofford College, where the North Carolina Tar Heels lead the Wofford Terriers 16-10. We're at the under-12 timeout, 11:36 to play in the opening half. Tar Heels lead by 6. Wofford didn't score for the opening 4.5 minutes, so they struggled to kind of get their sea legs there to start. They have not shot the ball well to begin. 4 of 14 from the field, 2 of 9 from downtown. Fletcher McGee has struggled to get it going. He's 0 of 4. The leader in scoring is Murphy, Storm Murphy, the talented young star for Wofford, has 3 points. Luke May has 5 to lead North Carolina. We saw 7th Woods, the South Carolina native corn, just dive for a loose ball to feed to May on a fast break slam. Also, the talented freshman Nasir Little has cracked the score sheet for the Tar Heels. Still early going, 11:36 to play opening half. North Carolina leads Wofford 16-10.
All right, thank you, Willie P. Some other scores. Citadel is leading Clemson 24-21, 10:49 to go in the opening half. The Bulldogs are shooting over 56%. And right now, it is Frierson leading a balanced scoring attack for the Bulldogs. Matt Frierson, he's got 6 points for the Bulldogs. Again, it's a balanced attack. They're hanging in there with Clemson. Clemson is shooting 50% with Mitchell leading the way with 6 points. Thomas and Reed with 4 each, and that is it. The Tigers have brought in Newman off the bench to get into the ball game here early on. So 24-23 now. The Citadel leading Clemson, 10:06 to play in the half. USC on an 11-0 run, leading Upstate 13-9. Gamecocks are led by the freshman Bryant. He's got 5 points off the bench, 2 of 2. They're only shooting 35.7%, and leading Upstate is Mozone with 5 points. Some other scores: Presbyterian leading the College of Charleston 14-12, 11:46 to go in the half. Furman leading Bob Jones 18-14, 11:23 to go in the half. And that's it as far as in-state scores are concerned.
Well, you understand that, Wofford does a lot of things well, including playing defense and rebounding, even though they're high disadvantage against North Carolina. They're shooting less than 30% from the field, and their leading scorer, Fletcher McGee, is scoreless, and they're only down by 6 with about 9 minutes to go, with about 10 minutes to go in the half.
Yeah, that's
and it's 16-12 now.
Good position to be in right now. You're hanging in there with them. And you know what they say when you're the big powerhouse team and you're on the road, and the longer you let these guys hang in.
Yes.
So this isn't your typical mid-major program. This is a mid-major with a high-major attitude, I would say, about Wofford.
With a high-major coach.
Oh, absolutely. Let's give you the high school football report for tonight. Then we're going to hear from Will Muschamp. And our high school football report here on Sports Talk each night is proudly brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With fave rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you get all of your favorite things like competitive rates, local agents, great claims service for all your auto, home, and life insurance needs. Get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. You know, the regular season is over for the high school league teams. Playoffs will begin on Friday, maybe Thursday in some cases. Final rankings from the high school sports report from the regular season. In 5A, it's Dutch Fork, Sumter, T.L. Hanna, Gaffney, Dorman, Berkeley, Somerville, Fort Dorchester, Burns, West Florence. In 4A, Hartsville is number 1, followed by South Point, Greer, Myrtle Beach, Belton Honeypath, Daniel, Wren, AC Flora, Greenville, and North Augusta. In 3A, Dillon is your number 1 team, followed by Chapman, Chester, May River, Strom Thurmond, Union County, Pendleton, Woodruff, Wade Hampton, and Gilbert. In 2A, your top-ranked teams are in 2A, Abbeville, number 1, followed by Barnwell, Carvers Bay, Bamberg, Earhart, Timberland, Mullins, 96, Southside Christian, and Landrum in there. Some reason they have Timberland listed at 5 and 8. So we'll just cut it right there and say Hannah Pamplico would be your 10th team, though it shows up at number 11. And in 1A, Lamar is number 1, followed by Wagner Sally, Lakeview, Dixie, Blackville Hilda, Baptist Hill, Whitmire, Bethune-Bowman, St. John's, and C.E. Murray. Back to Will Muschamp now on this Talking Tuesday, as Muschamp met with the media today. As you heard earlier, he talked about Florida in general, talked about his situation with injuries and manipulating the roster to fill in for the injured. Now more on Florida, a team that's lost 2 in a row, a team that is also going through some issues at quarterback, as a lot of teams have done. There's 2, maybe 3 guys the Gamecocks have to be worried about regarding the Gators quarterback on Saturday. Here's Muschamp's thoughts on dealing with the great unknown about Florida's quarterbacks.
I don't know. I don't know that they change a lot depending on who the quarterback is. Obviously, Dan's going to play to their strengths and the things that they like in the throwing game and such. But I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference in contrast to those two guys and what they do.
You mentioned Florida's rushing attack. Just do they do anything different compared to teams you've already faced in terms of like a Kentucky or a Georgia or a Texas A&M?
Well, I think we're calling each week that they do a really good job of game planning and giving you some different looks there. As you go through their run game, I put it on the board last night with our defensive staff. I mean, you look at by personnel grouping, there's a lot of runs. I mean, there's a large volume, and they're very successful. So in my opinion, what that tells you is they do a really good job of game planning. They do a really good job of figuring out what's going to work in the run game because they've been successful running it.
Well, a lot of man coverage in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss with the secondary depth concerns. Could you play man the whole game, or are you concerned maybe about tiring them out if they had to do that?
Well, if they run a deep ball, whether you're in zone or man, you're gonna get tired. So that's part of it. So we'll figure out what we need to do to give us the best chance.
Watching the Missouri-Florida game last week, is there anything that Jake can maybe mirror from what Drew was able to do against that secondary, especially without some of those Florida starters in the secondary?
Every week's a season. Every single week's a different deal, and we'll face a different Florida team than we saw on tape, and that's what message for our guys and understanding that, and obviously you prepare from the tape as you watch it, and you get a good idea schematically of where you feel like and how they're going to attack you, but every week's a season.
With kind of the way this Coach Grantham likes to blitz and the pressure that they can send, how much does that call on your running backs to sort of have sort of the head on a swivel and be really ready in pass protection with what they can kind of do? Absolutely.
And Todd will give us some different looks that we haven't prepared for. And there's no question whether it's in the tight ends or it's the running backs and understanding, what ID they have in the protection. And from a quarterback standpoint of knowing where we're protected, where we're not protected, from a route standpoint of understanding where we got to get rid of the football. When they bring the overload pressure. So it's not just at the running back, it's across the board. All 11 guys got to be on the same page.
How is your special teams depth at this point, considering the injuries you have had?
Well, you look at Javon was a core teams guy for us. So that hurts, obviously. So we're going, Nick and JT have been guys that have been out. We're core team guys as well. So, we make the proper adjustments. We prepare and develop our guys, and some guys need to step up for it. Israel stepped up for us. Josh Vance stepped up for us. Keel Pollard was on all 4 phases on Saturday, and plus about 40 snaps at tight end. Shamik's done a good job for us covering kicks, and will continue to do that. I'm just talking off the top of my head, guys, that, Casey Crosby, now that he's got that full cast off, he's going to be able to do more for us on special teams. Tyson. So again, we got to have some guys step up. Yeah. That's always a concern, when you get to this time.
Okay. There you go with Will Muschamp from his press conference earlier today. And otherwise, besides the injuries, listening to the players talk and the fact that they won a shootout at Ole Miss, the offensive guys feel good about that. The defensive guys are like, hey, man, not concerned that we gave up over 600 yards. Building on the momentum of the fourth quarter when they allowed just 19 yards and they came away with the win. That's all they care about. And they'll carry that with them, that momentum with them to Florida. Huge opportunity for South Carolina. Imagine what they could do to finish up their season if they can get that win at Florida on Saturday. And we'll be back in a moment.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network as we return you to Jerrickson Indoor Stadium where North Carolina leads Wofford 24-14. 4:07 to play in the opening half. Things have started to stretch out for the Tar Heels, who have really kind of built the lead here after the shots continue not to fall for Wofford. They're shooting just 6 of 28 from the field, 22%, 2 of 15 from downtown. As you now just hear the first basket for Fletcher McGee, who started out 0 for 7 from the field to cut the lead by North Carolina to 8 as we sit here with the under 4 timeout. Fans starting to get themselves into it a little bit here as there was a disputed call at the other end of the floor. But North Carolina has really done well with Luke May. He has 10 points, 3 rebounds. Again, Wofford had the offensive glass dominated pretty much to start this game. They had 7 offensive rebounds early, but none really since. They've out-rebounded North Carolina by 1. But on the scoreboard, it's North Carolina 24, Wofford 16, 3:56 to play. Or 3:47, excuse me, to play in the opening half.
All right, well, up at Clemson, it's still a battle between the Tigers and the Bulldogs of the Citadel, 34-31. Clemson clinging to a 3-point lead. 5 minutes to go in the half. The Citadel's cooled off to 44%. Tigers are shooting 50%. Reed has 8 for the Tigers. Frierson stuck on 6 to lead the Citadel. Over at USC, the Gamecocks on a 20-3 run against Upstate, leading now 22-12. And it's the College of Charleston leading Presbyterian 25-24. 5 minutes to go in the half there. Furman over Bob Jones 37-19. And, of course, with hoops in the air, that could only mean one thing here on Sports Talk. It's time to welcome Kerry Tharp, the president of Darlington. But when he's not the president of Darlington, he is rooting for his not only Western Kentucky Catamounts, but his Kentucky Wildcats, because indeed his blood bleeds blue during basketball season. True?
Not at all, and it's Western Kentucky Hilltoppers.
Hilltoppers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry.
My goodness gracious, Phil.
You know what happens when you reach a certain stage.
I do not bleed blue. I bleed garnet and black.
There you go.
I do not pull for the Kentucky Wildcats anymore. I did when I was a young whippersnapper back in the day, back in Louisville, Kentucky. But I'm a Gamecock fan. Glad to see that they're playing well here tonight, and glad to be on the show. But yes, hoops has started. I've got the TV turned on here in one place of the house, watching one game and watching another game in the other place of the house. My wife is in the other room watching reruns of some sitcom last night. So there you go.
Boy, it must be a big house.
Yeah, well, no, we just got 3 TVs in a 2-bedroom.
More TVs in rooms. That's good. That's good.
That's right.
Well, let's get at it. Good finish to the race last week, even though Kevin Harvick pretty much dominated. Boy, what a smart move on the restart. After 2 restarts, he took the inside. On the last one, he took the outside. Then it looked like he was shot out of a cannon. And he's running side by side, and all of a sudden, what propelled him to the lead and such a nice advantage there over that final lap?
Well, Kevin Harvick is as good as it gets on restarts. Him and Kyle Busch are both excellent. And so, and he had the car to beat. And so, when they had that last restart in the overtime period, he took that inside lane and he was off to the races, and he left Ryan Blaney in his dust. But, Kevin Harvick just showed what he can do the other day at Texas. In my opinion, he's probably the driver to beat right now, him or Kyle Busch, I would say, or in a dead heat. But Harvick winning at Texas, I think he just went out there and just kind of, re-emphasized, hey, guys, don't forget about me. I can definitely contend for the championship. But a very, very impressive win he had this past Saturday.
Yeah.
This past Sunday.
So you look at standings now, and Logano is into the 4. Harvick is into the 4. Truex is in a position to get in on points, depending on who the winner is at Phoenix. Elliott's sitting right there. He can get in. Can he get in on points depending on what else? Oh, no, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch can get in on points. Yeah, depending on the winning. And then you look at Elliott and Boyer. They probably have to win the race to get in. So Logano and Harvick, 2 of the big names, only one of the big 3 in right now. Do you think he'll be joined by the other 2 from that year-long group, or what do you think is going to happen at Phoenix, and the Final Four will look like what?
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting because certainly Kyle Busch and Truex could get in on points if they don't win the race. But what happens if Chase Elliott wins or Clint Boyer wins or Kurt Busch is a guy who I think could win out there at Phoenix. Almirola is another one in the playoffs that's still alive. But if one of those guys wins, that means that either Kyle Busch or Truex will be going home.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting. Kyle Busch and Truex, certainly if one of those guys don't win, they don't want one of those other four guys to win. So I think in my heart of hearts, I think somebody's going to knock one of those guys out. And I think Kurt Busch has got a real good opportunity to win Sunday out at Phoenix. He's won there before, and he's running pretty well. So I don't think there's anything that's a given right now for Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr.
I know Almirola and Logano have talked since Sunday, but do you think Almirola will follow through on his threat of Sunday in some form or fashion?
Well, I don't know, but and I know Eric pretty well. I couldn't believe he really came out of the car and was complaining about how hard Logano raced him, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to race hard. You're supposed to try to win the race. You're supposed to try to pass your competitor. And I saw absolutely nothing wrong with what Logano did. So, whether or not Almirola takes it out on him, who knows, because Logano's already locked in. But I don't think that's going to prove anything. I just think that, Almirola needs to, get into the swing of things and go out there and try to win some races, and not feeling that he was raced unfairly the other day. I don't think there was anything unfair about what Logano was doing. He was just trying to race him hard. And so, maybe he does try to take him out at Phoenix, but we'll wait and see. They are two, Ford competitors. I'm not sure if the manufacturers would take a liking to that, but I guess it remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Kevin Harvick, he looks like the best driver who hasn't won big yet. And I don't know whether I'm reading a lot into this or not, but I saw his interview right after he burned some rubber when he had his victory. He looked like he had a special gleam in his eyes, as if to say, I've got the crew, I've got the car, and now nobody can stop me.
That's a great point you made, Tom. But Kevin Harvick is a very confident driver, and he's kind of what I would call a cold assassin. I mean, he doesn't come out and say a whole lot. He does speak his mind on occasion, but he's not flamboyant at all. He doesn't, do the bow or do the backflip or anything like that. He's just out there and wins races. By the way, he's won 8 this year. So I think he just kind of reinforced the fact out there on Sunday that, hey, you know what? Somebody's going to have to go through me to win the championship. And I think he's got that quiet confidence right now. But when it comes down to Homestead, Miami, I think he'd move his mother out of the way to win the race.
Well, look, back to Sunday, officials in every sport can have a bad day. I think about the umpire at first base in the one of the series where his first 3 calls all were overturned. NASCAR had a bad start to the race on Sunday with the penalties against the 48, making them start at the back of the pack.
Right. No question, Phil. That was a blown call. And I will say this, though, NASCAR owned up to it. I would suspect there was a lot of butt chewing going on, probably from race control down to the ground when they found out that they'd made that mistake. That's a mistake that you can't take back. Once the race is started, you can't stop the race and say, hey, oh, by the way, we blew that call. We got to move Jimmy Johnson up to the front. But I handed off to NASCAR. They did, own up to the fact that they made the call wrong. They're going to do some things to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But certainly it was a miscommunication and a mistake that, put Jimmy Johnson at the back for no reason.
Hey, I'll leave you with this. Just looking at some video of Kevin Harvick. He looks a lot like Eddie Fogler in a racer's uniform. A young
well, I'll tell you
Eddie
what,
Fogler.
You know what? Hey, he does take Eddie's resemblance a little bit. And I will tell you this, and Phil, and you'll get this.
Are you going to have to?
He's a lot.
You're going to have to hang on.
He's a lot like Eddie.
All right. We're going to let you go. Thank you, man. Back in a moment.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
It's halftime here at Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium. 33-26, North Carolina leads Wofford. And when you think of all things considering here, guys, Wofford seems rather fortunate, I would say, as North Carolina led by as many as double digits. At one point, they led by 10 or 11, and now only by 7. The offensive rebounds, as I mentioned, were a big part of the reason that kept Wofford close early. They did not shoot the ball well to start, including Fletcher McGee, who finishes the half just 2 for 9, with both of his makes coming in the middle. They get a nice run of play from one of their post players, Cameron Jackson, who was going toe-to-toe with both Cameron Johnson and Garrison Brooks of North Carolina. Brooks leads the Tar Heels with 13 points. Luke May had 10 points and 3 boards, as North Carolina shot at 14 of 32, 43% from the field, 4 of 11 from downtown. Again, North Carolina 33, Wofford 26. They've gone to the half. Also, Corn at Clemson, where the Tigers lead the Citadel 49-40. Still playing in the opening half at USC, with the Gamecocks up by 8 in the final minute over USC upstate.
30-22, the Gamecocks are leading upstate, and Brandon Martin has scored for upstate. Martin's son scores against his dad's team, and apparently the family sitting behind the Gamecock bench went nuts when he scored. Frank probably not real happy about it. I loved his comment yesterday when he said, it got to him when he was breaking down the video and realizing that part of the scouting report involved defending his son. This may be something, considering the relationship between Martin and Dave Dickerson, this may be something that will continue in the years to come, unless it becomes too uncomfortable for him to play a game against his son. But he and Dickerson being so close, and a lot of basketball games are scheduled because of relationships between the coaches, you could see this continue for the years to come. 30-22, 3 seconds to go in the half, so they're about to hit halftime at the Colonial Life Arena. And Bryant, the freshman, the guy that they said, well, of course, it's just his first game. I mean, I'm not going to start confusing him with Kobe Bryant, but Keyshawn Bryant, a guy who South Carolina took late only because they could not keep the transfer from Louisville involved in the, what's his name?
Bowen.
Yeah, because the Bowen thing fell through. They had room to take another. They take Bryant, who was trying to remember where he was headed, who he was looking at hard. It was it Providence? Was it East Carolina? It was somebody. Anyway, South Carolina got him very quickly. He came in for a visit, and he's off to a good start. He's leading the Gamecocks in scoring at this point. He's got 9. Gravitt leads the Gamecocks in rebounds with 6 and assists with 2. The Gamecocks, and they're at the half now, 30-22. They've turned it over a dozen times. That's not good. And they have 24 rebounds. They have 9 on the offensive glass. The Spartans have turned it over 13 times, so a sloppy first half. They've got 17 rebounds, only 3 on the offensive glass. And Moore is leading the scoring for upstate with 10 points. As far as Clemson goes, 49-40 at the break for the Tigers. I'm sure that Brad Brunell loves the offense, probably not real happy with the defense. The Bulldogs have taken 18 three-pointers. They've made 7. They can live with that. They're shooting 45.5% overall. The Tigers have taken 14 threes. They've only hit 4, but they're shooting 56% overall. Sims has 11, and Reed has 10 to go with 9 rebounds and 3 assists.
Well, see, here's a game that Clemson's guards love. Their big men couldn't stand it because the Citadel is like a bunch of ants running around, and they want to just run up and down the court, and they'll wear you out. And I think it's a good starting game for Brad Brunell. I was kind of worried about Elijah Thomas with that ankle. On him trying to chase those guys, what kind of pressure did that put on his ankle? You talked about Bryant, but when you see just some of the stuff in high school, there's no doubt there's not many floors he will walk on college basketball, no matter what the team is. If he's not the most gifted athletically of any guy I've ever seen, he looks like he could, eat breakfast up on the rim if you let him.
Yeah, he is a leaper, is he not?
Mm-hmm.
Clemson finished the half hitting 7 of its last 9. USC finished the half in this game making 1 of its last 8 after having that big run. So that allowed Upstate to kind of claw back into it, now down 30-22. It's College of Charleston leading Presbyterian 36-30. They're at the half. And Riller is leading Charleston with 11. Brantley and Jasper with 8 each. Lewis leading all scorers. Francois Lewis at Presbyterian. He's got 15 points to open the half. Cougars shooting 35%. Blue Hose shooting 40%. Over at Furman, Paladins had opened it up big on Bob Jones. It's 51-29 as they're at the half. And Matt Rafferty has 15 points at the half to lead the Paladins in scoring. Furman is shooting, get this, 65.5%.
Wow.
19 of 29 from the floor. The Bob Jones team, what is their nickname? Bob Jones.
The Crusaders.
Devil Haters? I don't know.
I say the Crusaders.
The Crusaders. Look it up. Bob Jones, what? I've never really talked much about Bob Jones athletics except when they played Furman. 51-29, and they are shooting 59% from the floor. The problem is they've only taken 22 shots. They're 13 of 22, and they're trailing 51-29 at the break. Trying to see why this big discrepancy. If they're shooting, well, they've taken 7 fewer shots, and Furman is 6 of 9 at the line, and Bob Jones has not scored from the line. So there you go with the games of interest around the state. What about the the Michigan State Kansas game?
Oh, I've erased all my scoreboards. I'm looking for Bob Jones University's nickname now.
See if you can find that.
Let's say nickname. The Bruins.
Oh, they're the Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bruins. All right. Very good. So there you go with what's happening in college basketball. And football-wise, I think we've covered everything related to South Carolina and Clemson, their games coming up. We'll have more from the two camps tomorrow night as we dig deeper into USC, Florida, Clemson, and Boston College. The Boston College-Clemson line, which opened at 17.5, has grown to 20.
Oh.
So I am tempted to say, now a lot depends on if A.J. Dillon is healthy and able to play. He's kind of a day-by-day deal right now. That would be big, of course. ACC's leading rusher means so much to their offense. So they do have a backup. I think his name is Evans, who had a good game the other day. But Dillon really gives them an extra something at running back. And listen, Boston College, you look at their offensive line, they are usually big and strong and nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And they play that way. You heard Dabo Swinney say earlier, what did he call it? Every yard's a dirty yard against Boston College on the defensive side, too. They're always big on the defensive front. Think about the defensive linemen and offensive linemen that they've sent to the NFL over the years. So I don't know if 20 points might be. I know Clemson's been blowing everybody out, averaging 60 points a game over the last 4. I might be tempted to take those points.
Well, they give you
I got to wait and see if Dillon's available.
They give you the big play. And, of course, Clemson's idea is they're going to take the pressure off their defense. They want to run up the score. Those young DBs say, hey, look, all y'all got to play is a deep pass. That's all you got to play. By the way, Kansas 46, Michigan State 30 in the first half.
Pay those guys, Alice. And, of course, South Carolina, Florida, the game got 6.5-point underdogs. I think I'd take those points right now. Quickly, back to Spartanburg. Let's get a final thought from Willie P. on his surroundings.
Should be interesting, Corn. They're trying to ride the momentum from the home crowd here, and obviously they'll need it, and they'll need Fetcher McGee to get his shot going. Just 2 makes were inside the lane. He was 0 of 7 from outside. He needs more, and Wofford needs more to make themselves win.
All right. Thank you, sir. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.